What is up, guys? This is Pinzo back with another video today, and what I've got for you guys is a fault tier list. These are going to be the heroes that will win you more games. In a game where there's only 13 heroes, you can sure play the lower tiered heroes, and you'll probably do just fine on them. But I would recommend that if you're new, you pick up a top tier and learn a position with a top tier. It will make the game more fun for you, and you will learn a position better than if you play these lower tier heroes. The lower tier heroes aren't necessarily bad, they're just going to make your job a little bit harder in the game. Now, of course, you guys won't agree with all of my decisions, but I will justify them as we go through the tier list. Each tier will be sorted left to right, so the best heroes in a tier will be on the left and go to the right. But with that said, we are going to jump straight into S tier. Alright guys, starting us off hot, we have Boris. I think he's the best character in the game. I think most people would agree with this. He's super sticky early game. With the amount of move speed he gets from his Q, if someone hits 50% health, they just die. Your right click has burst damage on it, your E has more lifesteal on it, and more attack speed, and then your ult is basically just a panic button. Very strong character, you can't really lose when you play Boris. Start with attack speed, build into tank items at the end, and you'll be able to 1v1 carries into the late game. Second, we have Twin Blast, and a lot of people would put Twin Blast in A, and I see why, but I'm going to put him in S because I think he's leagues above the other carries. The crit build going around right now is 100% crit build, and it suits Twin Blast's playstyle very, very well. Twin Blast outtrades a lot of ADCs in the early game, which allows him to get this crit build on earlier. I think that he's the best carry in the game for that reason. He has an escape. I'm going to air quotes escape. His dash is not the best, but it's something. And I think he can play a little bit safer while still out-trading other ADCs. If you're going to play ADC, I recommend you try Twin Blast. He's very basic, so new players should pick him up very easily. Alright, and getting into A tier, we have a character that I'm guessing a lot of you thought would be in S, and that is Countess. I have her at the top of A. I think she could almost be S as far as the category of she will win you games, because she will. I think she's really easy to counter, and I think as soon as people figure that out, that she will become bad. If you gank a Countess before level 6, she's a free kill. As long as you don't let her bamboozle you with her teleport, she should be a free kill. She doesn't have an escape. She has some damage, but if it's early game and you're 2v1ing her, she's going to die. So just keep that in mind. If you get her behind early, she's very useless until very, very late game. So I would just be careful, get on her early, mid-game, be careful if she's not behind. If she's behind, then you win the game. Severog is next. He is the best solo laner in the game. I don't think a whole lot of people would dispute that. He has a very solid CC out of his root and a very reliable CC out of his ultimate. Anyone hit by a Severog ultimate should die. Severog can tank towers late game for like 30 seconds because he has 5,000 health. I would basically build him full defense. You don't need a lot of damage. A lot of the defense items give you a small amount of power, and that's really all you need. Get some cooldown reduction, reduce your ult cooldown, and that's really all you're looking for. And then we get to two supports. I have these guys set separately, but I would really just put them tied, honestly. Narbash, you're looking at a less reliable ultimate just because the knock-up, you're probably going to get stunned out of it before you can get to the end of your ult. But you have a very reliable CC out of Thunk. You have a very nice heal aura for taking early objectives, and you have a solid move speed buff. Whereas Steel's goal is to split up a team fight and insta-kill someone. Anyone hit by a Steel ult is then going to get hit by a Steel stun, and with those two things, someone's locked down for like 4 seconds and they're going to die. Anyone who can't move for 4 seconds should basically just be dead, and that's what happens. You need to get good at using your Steel wall. Your wall needs to be used in between the enemy's front line and their back line. Your wall will block your backline's damage, so don't push past it if you can help it. If you're chasing people down, yeah, go for it. But just be careful with your wall placement, and you should be good playing Steel. Belica is a character I really wanted to put in B tier, but I think she's slightly better than that. She counters Countess very well. If you hold your stun until Countess teleports, then you will be just fine playing against her. If you stun the Countess down, then you can do a lot of damage to her, make it harder for her to go in. Late game with Belica, you hold your stun as long as possible. Use your stun to interrupt enemy cooldowns rather than setting up your own damage if you can. If you're obviously rolling a fight, then go ahead and set up some damage. Until Belica's ult gets buffed, I think her ult is very weak. If her ult gets buffed, then I think she jumps up the tiers a little bit. Moving into the B tier, starting us off, we have Chimera. Chimera is not the worst character, but his playstyle changed. they nerfed his passive pretty hard by actually changing it into a passive, so you don't get the same early game as you used to. Late game, yeah, you're still pretty strong, but you have to change your playstyle around your new passive. This new playstyle, I would recommend you build maybe some attack speed early to help with clear, but mostly power and into a hybrid build late game. This will allow you to jump on people and ult them, and your ult does a lot more damage than it used to. So you should be able to jump on someone and ult them, and basically that should be a death sentence. Your ult stuns them down, they should get focused fire, and they're going to die. That's your playstyle as Chimera. Past that, you're going to be kind of a tanky frontliner looking to jump and slow someone, that kind of playstyle. It's just different than it was in Paragon, so be careful. Then Muriel is, once again, she's not bad, she's just not near as good as Narbash or Steel. Her kit is just meh, her shields are cool, she has a very strong ultimate, but outside of her ult, I don't think her kit does as much as Narbash and Steel do. Next, you've got Murdoch, once again, very strong ultimate, allows you to possibly get leads early game if you can snipe kills from across the map. Past that, he really doesn't have an escape. His knockback's not super reliable. His bubble might as well not be an ability. It's just not very good. And his shotgun is good, but by the time that they're in range for you to use his Q, you're probably dying because someone's close enough for you to use your Q on them, you know? After him, you have Greystone and Quang. These are characters I'm going to kind of group together because I think they are equally bad. Greystone, you guys don't know how to use his ultimate properly. You need to keep his ultimate. People get his ultimate forced really early because they use it as a second life. You need to use it as a slow. His ultimate is a very potent slow while you are in the air. This is very strong. If you can get into a team fight and be in the middle of it, you can slow the entire enemy team with this and deal damage, and you have a second life. They had to use cooldowns on you. If you get this procced outside of a team fight, you're doing something wrong. Quang is just a worse version of Severog in my eyes. He has a very similar CC with the tether to Severog's root, except Severog's root is just better in every way. Quang just doesn't do enough for me. He's a little bit of a lackluster character. Coming out of the solo lane, I want someone who has a little more setup, CC, tankiness, and Quang really doesn't have a lot of any of those things. Alright guys, moving into the C tier, these are characters where I really wouldn't recommend playing them a whole lot. You can play them and they're fine, but they are going to make your life harder if you play them. First, you've got Gideon, and Gideon is an interesting case because I actually think he's a very strong character. For those of you who know what Gideon's passive is, when you hit someone with an ability, they are slowed, and if you hit them with another ability within 2 seconds, you get a proc where you can use an ability on cooldown. So if you hit them with a Q and then a right click, they're slowed, and then you can use a Q or a right click again because it's on cooldown. This is a very, very strong passive. I think it's the best passive in the game, as a matter of fact. But the problem is that your right click doesn't proc it properly. Your right click does AoE damage when it hits terrain or max range. The problem is that this AoE damage does not proc your passive. It only procs your passive if you direct hit your right click, which limits it in insane amount. I don't know if this is intentional or not. I hope it's not, because it should proc it if you can hit that AoE damage. So if you hit an AoE damage on your right click and then you hit a Q, you might be thinking you should get another free ability and you don't. Just something to be careful of. I really wouldn't play Gideon until that passive gets fixed. If they fix his passive, I think he becomes the best mid laner in the game, because you can insta-kill people at level 8, 9, because you have 3 abilities that you can use and your meteor chunks. So just be careful playing Gideon until then. I really wouldn't count on your passive until they fix it. Just something to be careful of. Past him, you've got Sparrow, and I just don't think she brings enough to the table compared to the other ADCs. She has a little more early game pressure with her pierce shot. You can poke people out, but past that, her early game boxing potential, which is where her passive should allow her to shine, actually kind of gets outshined by Twin Blast's kits, just allowing him to box early game very effectively. So if you want to play Sparrow, I recommend you pick Twin Blast instead. He's just basically better Sparrow in every way. Sparrow doesn't have an escape, Twin Blast does. Sparrow's ult is a last resort. Twin Blast's ult is more of a I'm going to shred you kind of thing. So just something to be careful of picking Sparrow. You can do it, just your life's going to be a little bit harder. But with all that said, guys, that is actually the entire tier list. If you guys have questions, you can come ask in the comments below or in my Twitch chat. I stream Fault pretty often, and I do teach over there and discuss things, so just come ask in chat, and I will clear anything up for you. With that said, guys, that's all I've got for you. So I have been Pinzo. This video is donezo. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys next time.